Well, there you have another episode of Straight Outta Combat Radio, audio medicine by Green Zone Hero. This former Navy U.S. SEAL has an incredible story. This is probably one of the most heart-rendering stories that we've had. It is packed full of wisdom. There's some tears in this one. It's a story that you need to hear about overcoming lots of things. One of the things that Marvin, Gonzo, Gonzales has in common with me is we're two veterans that both made that call to that hotline. And you know the one that we're talking about, the one for crisis. Listen to this one all the way through. You're not going to be let down. And thank you for listening to another episode of Straight Outta Combat Radio. We really appreciate it.
You're a steely-eyed killer shadow in the night. You were born to fight. You gotta light 'em up.
My name is John Krotek, and I want to welcome you to Straight Outta Combat Radio, audio medicine by Green Zone Hero. We're here to honor the wisdom of America's most valuable asset for combat veterans. We're authentic, we're empowering, we're American.
Save us all before they burn it down.
Our veteran guest for this episode of Straight Outta Combat Radio is a Navy SEAL, former Navy SEAL, and I've been trying to get this guy for a while. We linked up through a common Special Forces soldier. Gonzo does some pretty cool things for veterans who have lost their lives, primarily to suicide. We'll talk a little bit more about that. His name is Marvin Gonzo Gonzales. He was born and raised on Long Island. His family originally was from El Salvador, having escaped the Civil War activities going on down there. And like so many other Americans who served, you know, he was greatly influenced and impacted by the World Trade Center and what happened on 9/11, prompted Marvin to head on down to the Navy recruitment office and enlist. But he did a lot of things, you know, in the Navy. Probably the greatest thing he did was join the Navy SEALs. And after his Navy SEAL training, everybody knows what the Navy SEALs go through. It is probably the most hardcore military training anywhere on the face of this planet. He was assigned to SEAL Team 8. We're going to talk a little bit about that. He had deployment to Yemen. He had a deployment to Africa. He went to some places, did some missions in the defense of our great nation, was honorably discharged from active duty in 2012. He's been doing some things in the tri-state area up in New York, has a family with three children, 2 sons and a daughter. Gabriella is his oldest, and Joseph and Jeremy. He's married to Joanna. He's got lots of awards hanging on that Navy uniform. I just want to say that I'm proud and honored to have you, Gonzo, on Straight Outta Combat Radio. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much, John.
Yeah, man, it's nice to have you here, and I'm not smoking and joking. Gonzo and I have been trying to get together for several months now. We had lost a Special Forces friend in our network in February of this year, and Gonzo really took the time out of his busy day to create these flags with the stripe in remembrance. And that's kind of how I met Gonzo. His heart and soul is with the warriors that we continue, and warriorettes that we continue to lose. He's up in New York now. He's surviving COVID as best they can. His family's intact. They're all safe. In fact, he's got Gabriella with him right now. And so if you hear her, it's all good. You know, we're not doing anything too out of the ordinary as a father. Let me ask you this, Gonzo. Tell us a little bit about the Gonzalez household and what it was like growing up on Long Island and with parents that had fled a nation that had been involved in a bloody civil war. What was that like, man?
Yeah, growing up, it was very strict in regards to, it was very traditional setting. You know, my dad, he worked. My mom took care of my brother and I. They just followed the traditions pretty much that they had back in El Salvador. My mom ran the home front. My dad just was a provider. You know, he's still in the business, concrete. He did construction, and he still does it till this day. And you know, he just his main thing was respect. You know, in the Hispanic community, respect is always huge. So I remember I got a lot of that. Hey, respect your elders, you know, and be somebody of integrity, and just, you know, carry yourself in a way that's honorable, that you will not stain the family name. I guess that's a good way of putting it.
Those value sets these days, you know, seem like at times like they're still not there. And it's very inspirational to hear that, you know, that's the way your family raised your brother and you. And those value sets, obviously, I know that when you were doing that Navy SEAL training, probably had a lot to do with your success there. But so tell us about, you know, what kind of things were you doing in high school, man?
So when I played wrestling and soccer, I liked wrestling because to me, it was like, man, this is the closest thing I'll get to a fight without getting in trouble.
I hear you, man.
And I grew up in a small town. The first one, we lived there till I was about 5 years old. And then there was a huge brawl where they jumped my dad and they attacked him. And it was 4th of July weekend, and they flipped over our car. And they took my brother and I out of the car just in time. And it was bad. You know, there was a lot of drugs being sold in the area. And the individual, I guess, wanted to sell my dad some cocaine. And my dad, you know, he didn't want it. And push came to shove. And then, you know, they started throwing blows. So the drug dealer's like friends saw it and they jumped in, and, you know, my dad did whatever he could to protect his family, you know, and then in the process, we got our car flipped over and it just got really crazy. So he didn't want us growing up in that type of environment. So we packed up shop and we went south of Long Island by the beach. And there was this little town called Island Park. And during that time, it was really mostly Italian and Irish that lived there, and not many Hispanic families were there. I guess I was like maybe 1 out of 5 Hispanic families that were there. And it was awesome growing up. I made great friends. We still keep in touch today. And it's funny because when I was active, I had a heavy, like, Italian Guido accent. And people were like, "Are you Italian?"
That's awesome, man.
Yeah. You know, but growing up, I just kept my nose clean. I did what I had to do. Was a little rebellious here and there with my buddies, just, but nothing to the point where, you know, cops were getting involved or like gang activity or like nonsense like that. You know what I mean? And, you know, we were just kids. You know, we played our sports, and when we trained hard, and knowing that we were from a small town and we're going up against all these other towns here in Long Island, you know, you could sense when you go into a different school and it's from a different district where you could see the money where it goes.
Yeah.
And they look at you and they look down on you. And I was just thinking to myself, I'm like, man, all right, well, you know what? I'm here to kick your ass and I'm going to do that. So, you know, it was a good feeling when you would go up against these other, you know, rich neighborhoods and you just beat the shit out of them and you come on top. So.
Well, you know, and that's cool because, you know, that sport of wrestling, we're not talking about the wrestling you see on TV. I don't want to disrespect any professional wrestling enthusiasts.
Oh, no, it was collegiate.
But we're talking about the roots, the real wrestling. And that's kind of cool the way you say it like that. So, you know, you go into all these neighborhoods, you're beating the snot out of kids. And it's just nice to hear that, you know. What's cool about that is that, again, we go back to roots, man. We go back to values and core values. And, you know, a lot of people don't give a lot of people in the Hispanic communities, you know, that type of dignity and respect. And, you know, these are why we have to tell stories like this, Marvin, because they do have the same core value sets that, you know, whites or blacks or others that demonstrate that. It's not even really about the nationalities or the skin. It's about the people, man. And I love to hear stories like that because that's really what America's all about. You know, my dad's parents were from Yugoslavia.
Mm-hmm.
He grew up like in Pittsburgh, and you know, he was a tough Pittsburgh guy, right? And he grew up in his own neighborhood, and kind of the same thing. If you went over into like the Russian neighborhood, you got the snot kicked out of you. If you went over to the Irish neighborhood, that's just the way it was. And my dad decided to move out of Pennsylvania because he wanted something different for his family. And shoot, man, I grew up on the west coast of Florida. I was a beach guy. I never saw any of that. But he did raise us with values like your dad did. And I'm, you know, kudos to your mom and dad for coming to America, which is tough to do anyways. And then to grow up in neighborhoods that are somewhat looked down upon at times. And God bless you, man. And God bless them. So,
yeah.
So what happens, man? So 9/11 happens, and what are you guys thinking in New York?
So I was in 9th grade English class when that happened. From my town, you could see the skyline. and it was nothing but a black cloud of smoke that you could see. And when the smoke starts clearing out, it's all gray and hazy and whatnot, and it hit me hard, especially because friends that I went to school with, some of them lost both parents, one parent, a relative, and it was crazy. And we're hearing all the fire trucks and coming from Long Island that went to the city to go aid, and it's just chaos going outside, and we're like, what the hell's going on? And then next thing you know, they just told everybody to go home. My dad was actually doing a construction job a block away from ground zero. And it worried me because I was like, shit, is he over there? And turns out that day they didn't go to work for some reason. And when I got home, I see him and he goes, hey, you see what's going on television? And I just remember I just gave him a big hug because I was happy to see him,
He could have been killed, man.
Yeah, for real. During that time, believe it or not, I was working at a bar. My buddy, his family owned this bar and restaurant. And, they're Italian. So, the family's running the business from the youngest member of the family to the most senior. So, I remember I was working with him during the summer and I was a bar back. So I was just doing whatever the bartender needed. Hey, I need a bottle of this. I need ice. I need beer. I need this. So I was just running back and forth and getting that for him at the age of 13.
That's awesome, man.
So,
making bucks, though, making some money.
Yeah, I did. I remember one time I heard my parents arguing about making ends meet. So the walls were thin and I was in the room with my brother and it was tough because my brother had cerebral palsy. So, when you have a child that has special needs, especially like cerebral palsy, it just, it makes it difficult. Yeah. So especially with resources and language barrier, when there's no bridge to get over that, and yeah. Anyway, so I took it upon myself. I asked my buddy for a summer job and he goes, well, you're going to be working for me with my uncle. So his uncle ran the bar and there I was working for him. And I remember when I made my first amount of money, I gave it to my dad and I'm like, hey, this is for the bills. And, I just wanted to be my dad's right-hand man, help him out. So I ran with that job for like 5 years until it was my time to go into the Navy. But it hit me hard because one of the bartenders there was a firefighter and he got killed on 9/11. And when we heard the news, it devastated the whole place because we were basically a family, at that place. I was there from 13 all the way till I was 18 working, so every summer, one of the bartenders told me, he's like, hey man, he's like, you were just a puppy when I saw you. And now you're this killing machine. So right. And I'm like, but I learned that was a different school for me. I learned a lot of stuff. I saw a lot of things that a 13-year-old shouldn't see. I was exposed to a lot of things, and it was the nightlife. Yeah. So at the end of the day, I took it with a grain of salt, and I ran with everything that I learned from that place, and the things that my parents taught me, and I just, I kind of had to make my own decisions later down the road.
So when you decided to join the Navy, what would your mom and dad say?
Well, my dad, he told me, he's like, I guess it's time we're gonna have the talk. So he got a 6-pack of beer, and then we sat down and he talked, and I remember he was telling me stories from what happened in El Salvador. And in El Salvador, there were SF units advising and also SEALs advising. So, he knew where I was going at as far as what community I wanted to serve in. So he just told me, he's like, hey man, whatever you do, just give it everything you got. At the end of the day, you're going to do your decision. You're old enough to sign the dotted line. So it doesn't matter what I think, but I'm just going to give you my 2 cents. And then he just kind of gave me the pep talk and he just told me, just give it my absolute best. And that when I'm there, to give it everything. My mother, obviously, she did not want me going because she would watch the news and she would see what they would post. So you know how it is. People see all the chaos and stuff or whatever they could put on the news and they make their decisions from there. So a mother's going to be a mother, man. And, mine, she didn't want me to go. But in the end, when I went, she just respected it. That's all.
So you're off to the Navy, man. You're telling all your buds goodbye. And then tell us about, indoctrination into the U.S. Navy, the world's finest Navy. What was going on in your head?
So when I was there, I remember the recruiter, he picked me up. I saw my brother. I gave him a hug and a kiss. I told him, be in touch. I didn't know what to expect. It's just this is the first time I'm leaving home. So left the house, and when I got in the car, I just told them just drive. I didn't even look back. When we get there, obviously the recruiter's yelling, "Get off the bus!" You go to where the footprints are. You stand at attention, and you're just following the directions of what they tell you. And it was funny because I'm linked up with all these guys that are from Brooklyn, Bronx, from all the other boroughs, and they acting all hard. I'm from Brooklyn. I'm from Bronx. Oh yeah, blah blah blah. And then they're like, "Yeah, well, welcome to the Navy. That doesn't matter."
Yeah. Yeah, I get it, man. I get it.
Yeah. But, basic, we did basic. I had a solid crew. Mine actually was integrated. They had females mixed with the males in our division. Obviously, the sleeping quarters, they were different. But, when we worked together. So that was something different that they decided to do. There was some drama, just bullshit drama. Oh, this is my Navy girlfriend. And, we got our asses beat for it, But once we pushed that out of the way and moved forward, I advanced and went through further training. I was focused on obviously being a SEAL, so I kept going that route. I went through the apprenticeship training for a gunner's mate. Back in the day, you needed to have a SEAL-rated job in order to get the contract to be a SEAL. So I chose gunner's mate. I didn't score high enough on the ASVAB to get the contract, so I went the other route where basically you get a job that's related to what the SEALs do in the community, and then from there you can apply. So I did that. When it was time for me to retake my ASVAB, on my off time, I would go to the Navy College Learning Center, and I was basically preparing myself to retake the ASVAB so I could get a contract. And when it was my time to do the exam, my proctor from the apprenticeship school, he cut me orders to go to the fleet. So I didn't even get a chance to take the ASVAB. So I was a bit upset because I did all this work to retake this exam for, to do the process. And then I'm getting cut orders to go to the fleet. And now I'm going to be on the Navy's time. God knows how long I'm going to be at this command for, and will they let me go? And just a bunch of stuff started running through my mind. But you take it with a grain of salt, and you know what, man? Went to the fleet, and it was an awesome time. I got to learn what the real Navy was about. I did a deployment, and I did various exercises that involve, leaving port and just preparing the ship for when it travels on deployment. We were actually attached with the 11th Marine Expeditionary Unit out of Camp Pendleton. So we were 500 Navy personnel and 1,500 Marines on this deployment. And this was the last one that the ship made. So after this deployment, I actually put in my package to go to Buds because I was able to pick and choose where I wanted to go to next. So,
Gonzo, what year was that?
2006, 2005, 2006 timeframe. So I had to wait for the ship to have a decommissioning ceremony and whatnot, and then I checked into Buds March 27th, 2007, and I was with Class 265.
There you go. You're off the Buds then. So
Yep.
a well-storied location, Coronado, and you arrived there. And what's going on, man? Tell us about that transition.
So once I was there, you see the difference between the guys that got that Navy contract and just went straight from boot camp to Buds, and then you see the other guys that were from the fleet, So they look at you differently, because you got a taste of the actual Navy. You got some salt underneath your belt, you know what I mean? And so it's like, hey, you're at a new command, just do what you got to do and work together with the class. And it's a big gut check, because there are some evolutions where, yes, you're going to be with your boat crews, you're going to be doing stuff, but at the end of the day, each individual has to seriously give themselves a gut check as to why you're there, obviously put out. And in the end, you know what? It's the best. I remember a buddy of mine put it, he goes, man, we got the best job in the world right now. We're getting paid to do this. We're getting paid to work out. We're getting paid to do these runs and the yoke courses, and one of the guys was saying, yeah, remember what that guy said? It was temporary discomfort for a lifetime of glory. So,
Yeah.
you always had to find a way to prepare yourself mentally to just make it through the evolution and to just get ready for the next one, because it's nonstop. It's nonstop.
So let me ask you this, Gonzo. So can you think of one time in, in Bud's training, obviously the people were dinging the bell like crazy, probably making you guys wonder, but can you think of one instance where you just where it just crystallized for you and you say, holy crap, now I know why I'm here and this is why I'm doing this? Was there anything that happened specifically?
You just hear the instructors when they talk about their stories about, what they've done overseas, and they go to these places, man, when they telling you this stuff that's from the heart, and this is like, hey man, this is like no shit for real. You hear the stories about all these heroes that are just like, these are the guys that you want to be. I started thinking about the people that I care about back at home. The fact that guys like Joe Hunter, the firefighter that I knew that ran into the buildings and didn't come out, but he saved, I don't know how many people he saved, but, I did it for guys like him. I did it for guys like my brother who had cerebral palsy, who was either in bed or in a wheelchair, couldn't do anything for himself. I wanted to do something. And because I love this country, this is my country, dude. I'm going to protect it tooth and nail, no matter what. And knowing that I was going through that training with all these guys that were like-minded, that we're all seeking the same goal at the end, is to be a Navy SEAL. What more can you ask? And I remember there was one time during Hell Week where, they asked me, why do you want to do this? Why do you want to be in the teams? And everybody's going through, either some of them were saying a joke and they would hit the surf. The instructor would be like, hit the surf. One of them was Asian. So one of the guys in my boat crew, he goes, it's true about us Asians. And he shows his pinky. and he got sent to hit the surf, because the instructor was Filipino, and he goes, oh, hell no. It's just the morale, man. It's just, it was great. But, when it came time to keep it real, I shared, like what I shared with you and as to why I wanted to do it. And also, what happened on 9/11, that shouldn't have happened. So obviously it's like somebody does a ruckus in your house, they ain't gonna get away with it, So
yeah, I mean, absolutely.
Moving forward. Yeah.
Yeah. So, so you earn the Trident, takes you, it's over a year of training, isn't it?
Yeah. With me, I was a knucklehead. So, I didn't make it first time every time with many things. I got rolled back because of performance. I couldn't stabilize during jump school on my exam. So, 3 tries, if you don't make it, hey, you got to continue with the next class and you go through remedial training and whatnot. So it took me longer to get to the team. So
how did you feel, man, when you got the Trident? How did you feel?
I just, it was incredible. I felt honored. I just had like a flashback of everything that I had gone through to get there. And I knew it was worth it, everything. And I was just like, you know what? Hey, now it's just, it's go time.
Did your mom and dad go to graduation?
No, my mother, she was home with my brother because she was taking care of him.
Yeah.
My dad was able to go out with my sister and my little nephew. So they were able to see it.
That's pretty cool, man. So tell us about your first deployment when you finally made it to a team and what was that like? So
my first deployment, I did a lot of training with the counterterrorism unit of that country. And we were there doing foreign internal defense training. So we did advising. It was my first one and I made my mistakes and I learned from them. I owned them. I moved forward. But I also found ways to make myself better. When I was over there, I learned how to speak Arabic. So when it came time to, performing, there was times when I didn't even have an interpreter. I was able to get the point across and run the firing line with no interpreter. So guys that were running stuff in the house, they had more bodies to help out. And you know what, man, we excelled. We crushed deployment and we made it happen. And it was good knowing that, hey, all right, so this is what I got. My platoon got split up. Some guys, they got sent to Afghanistan, and some guys got split up and got sent to someplace out in Iraq. So, it is what it is. After that, it sucked when I got back home, because that was my first glimpse of reality when it came to losing a teammate. I was flying back, and we were in Greece when we landed, and a buddy of mine got an email, and he goes, "Hey, do you know?" He said a couple names, and the thing is, they died in a helicopter crash up in Afghanistan. I just remember that when I graduated training, when I got my Trident, I saw those guys there, and then now I'm like, what? This is unbelievable. I just saw them. How could it be? But they were doing combat operations over there, and it hit home. You grow bonds with these individuals that, you didn't even grow up with them, but you just create such a strong bond with them that, it's a family member that you lost. So it really hit home for me.
Yeah, I can't, even imagine. And that's probably the toughest. That's the toughest is the downside of losing your mates. And, you deployed 3 combat areas, Colombia and Africa and Yemen.
Yeah. During those times, there were hostile areas. Thank God, dude. Honestly, man, my deployments, they were solid. We did what we had to go do, but I wasn't in any firefights or any sort of speak, all right? Just to clear it up. I did a lot of vid and advising on my deployments. I did a PSD down in Colombia. It was awesome, but it was solid work, man. Work is work, Everyone was different. Everyone had bullets that I could take from it that were learning points for me for growth and to better myself. And, I got to tell you, when it was time to punch out, it was my time to go,
Well, looking back on it now, Gonzo, would you do it all over again?
Yeah, I still got piss and vinegar going through my veins. I could go again.
That's good to hear, man. So tell us about then, thank God, you made it back, and, sorry about anybody that you knew that we've lost. We've lost so many. And obviously the Navy SEAL mission, regardless of what team you're on, is instrumental to the success of us, overseas. So, your value to the overall mission is without question. Thank you for that. And so tell us about, you got an honorable discharge, you're getting out, you're getting back into the world, so to speak. Tell us a little bit about your transition.
So this is where it's going to get heavy. My transition was not easy. I hit the bottle a lot. I was unemployed my first year because things weren't falling into place the way I wanted to. When I left the Navy, I kind of left with a bitter taste in my mouth, I wish some things could have been different, and I was living in the past a lot. Moving forward, when I was back in New York, it was one of the toughest challenges I've ever had to do. Especially knowing that at one moment in my life, I'm jumping out of airplanes, I'm doing all this training, I'm doing all this cool stuff, man, and the next one I'm in line outside of a Home Depot looking for work.
Yeah.
And I'm standing next to, in the town that was where that occurred, there was a lot of guys from El Salvador, from Honduras and Guatemala. Many of them didn't have papers. So anybody that passes by, they'd probably be like, oh, he's an immigrant that's looking for work or anything, but never in a million years would they think that me
was a Navy
former
SEAL
team guy.
Yeah. That's got to be tough, man. I mean, it's like 1 minute you got mission, you got purpose, you're doing some hardcore stuff, and then the next minute you're back out in the world. There are a lot of people don't really even give a shit, it seems like sometimes.
So, yeah. I remember I hit the bottle pretty hard, and then on my 1 year anniversary, I woke up in a hospital because I got alcohol in my body and I had to throw up. When I was at the train station, I fell into the train tracks.
Yeah.
I was puking so hard, my legs gave out, and I just fucking went head first, went in.
Who pulled you out, man?
I don't even know. Some stranger, man. I don't even fucking know, man. And when I walked down from that platform, I lost my footing on the stairwell, and I just fucking hit the sidewalk. Next thing you know, paramedics came in, and I woke up in the hospital.
Uh-huh.
So it's not the pretty picture that, you know, many want to hear, but the reality is shit happens.
Shit happens, man. When you married at this time?
No, I met Joanna after. And
so you're laying there in the hospital.
Just,
what the hell are you thinking? You that was definitely the bottom of the abyss, man.
What I was thinking about was, what am I going to do to be better? What am I going to do to get myself out of this mental state that I'm in? You know, because like you said, I had purpose, and it happens with many of us. But I'll speak for myself. When I got out, I was like, what's my purpose? That's one of the biggest questions. What's my purpose? What's the whole point of me doing all this, and then I have nothing to show for it now that I'm back? You know, I just little by little, I found the job. I took my brother to the hospital one day, and his roommate in the hospital room worked at the marina. And he goes, hey, they're looking for divers. So I went and I interviewed, and the guy, what he did was he scraped the barnacles off the bottom of the boat that were out there in the marinas in North Shore, Long Island. And I needed a job, man. So I was just like, fuck it, I'll do it. So there I am in a little dinghy whizzing up and down the marina, and I'm scraping the barnacles off of the boats. And I had some clients that were very wealthy individuals that honestly, I was disgusted with how they behaved. And all I thought about was sinking their ship or their boat, whatever the hell they had out there.
Kind of like it's subversive, man.
Yeah.
I get it.
And then from there, you know, I just, I was like, you know what, man, I'll do the best that I can. And I'll do my job to the best of my ability, man. What more can you ask? When diving season was over, took care of my brother. I became a home aide. I went to the agency that took care of my brother, and my parents, they qualified for a program where a relative could take care of the individual. So I took care of my brother from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., 7 days a week. And it was for a total of like 3 months. You know, my brother's condition got worse as the years went on. And I'm just grateful, though, because you know what? He looked out for me during that time. I needed a job, and I took care of him, and he kept me out of trouble. And, you know, I was able to spend time with them that I didn't get to have with him when I was active.
Yeah.
And I took care of him.
How old was he? How old's your brother? Or how old was he?
He was 29. He was 10 days shy of his 30th birthday when he died.
So was he was your older brother?
Yeah, I'm the youngest.
Yeah. That's tough, man. I thank you for doing that. You know, God puts us on this planet to do things, and that was your mission right there, man.
So when this is all going on, you know, I applied to commercial dive school down in New Jersey, and I went there. It's a 5-month-long training. And when I was in the middle of training, my mother gave me a phone call and told me that, hey, I think you should come up. And I already knew what she meant. And during the time that I took care of him as the homemade, you know, I shared with my brother everything. I got it off my chest.
Yeah.
And you know what? That was so helpful for me. Because to unload that burden that I carried, you know, I didn't get judged. You know, I got nothing but love in return. And we carry this shit for so long, anything, shame, guilt, whatever. And I know I carried that for a while. And when I was in the middle of commercial dive training, and I came up here for that weekend. My brother, he wasn't going to make it, and I knew it. And on the day that he passed, I just remember I said some final words to him, and I told him I loved him. My sister was in the room, and she was trying to get a pulse, and she's like, I don't know how to use this thing. Can you help? And I used the little pulse ox thing, and I put it on his finger, and it read error. His pulse was so low. And he was just hanging on because my parents were doing final rounds at the funeral home. And then I just told him, yo, just hang in there. Just a little longer. And then when my parents showed up, my mom and my dad, they made a straight line for his room. And we were in the room. My mom cradled him. And my dad was in the middle. And my sister was to my dad's right. And I just spread my arms open and as if I was a blanket. And I just hugged them all together. And my mom just, she was saying a prayer, thanking God for the time we had him. And when she closed it, he gave his last breath.
What was your brother's name?
Christian.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, man. That's God bless him, man. We learn a lot from people in our lives, and sometimes when we're in those places, we don't even really realize the strength that we grow from stuff like that.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about all of that story is that it shows the amazing strength and the power of love, and the amazing thing that, being in a situation and in a family that's not judgmental. And I got to tell you, man, it's not easy to talk about those things. We've all got, I've had that talk about some of the shit that I've been through, and doesn't make it any easier. It just gets different,
Yeah.
But, Christian loved you, man. And you did everything that you had to do to make his life better. And that's something that nobody can take away from any of you guys.
Yeah. I just remember that my mother, right before, it was on the last day of the funeral. She was like, hey, could you put your uniform on to honor him? And granted, the last time I put my uniform on was to take a picture. A buddy of mine, right before I was getting out, he was like, hey, let me take a picture of you in your uniform. It's always good to have these. I was like, all right. And, so I go, and the thing is, I was talking to my buddy Joe, and I was like, we wore our uniforms for more funerals than anything else, So it sucked. But at that funeral, we got so many people that came to show support to my family, and I was eternally grateful for it,
Yep.
But I didn't want them to remember my brother as somebody that didn't live a good life, or, feel so sorry for him because he had cerebral palsy, So I just remember I took the floor and I piped up, and I was just like, hey, man, this is who he was. This is what he did for me. And, I just, because I didn't want nobody to just remember my brother as like a little kid who just had cerebral palsy and had a bad life. So I said what I said, and it was powerful stuff, man. I don't even know where it came out of. It just happened.
Gonzo, it's your soul, brother. It came straight from the heart of your soul. And that's a story that needs to be told, and it's a story that's very powerful. And, I got to tell you, I'm humbled to hear it, and grateful for this time that you've given us on this show. Tell us about your family now.
My family now, they've taught me a great deal. Love, compassion, patience. To be brave. A lot more. but I specifically said those for a reason. My wife taught me how to love, because for many years I was very angry with some of my teammates, with other people that I let into my life. And I felt that, they did me wrong. I learned to forgive and let go. I learned for it to be okay if you're scared. Because in the moments in which you're scared, that's when you become brave. My wife, we lost our first child. So I had to be brave and be the companion she needed to help her get through that.
Yeah.
From there, I saw her as my teammate, and I take care of her like that. I'm always there, no matter what. I learned patience, because a relationship requires patience. I learned humility. And, oh man, so much. My kids, they definitely teach me patience.
No
It's
doubt.
not easy. But at the same time, those lessons that, to me, I harness them and I run. I'm like, hey, I know I've made my mistakes, some bigger than others. But you know what? I own each and every one of them. I paid my dues and I moved forward. And now I'm just somebody that's raising a family. I'm providing for them, and I'm putting myself in a position to be of service to others. And, my family now, we got what we need. We have what we need. And, it's just, it's a small little tribe. I got Joseph, who's 2. He has his little temper tantrums, and I'm just like, well, I'm looking at him. He's just a little child. He's a little kid, He doesn't know how to express a lot of his things. And I got to be patient to understand that and to show him a way to do it in a better way.
Yeah.
My daughter, she's 4. There are times when she does things and it upsets me, but I can't talk to her like if she was somebody from my platoon, like, what the fuck you doing, dickhead, because it's detrimental to her. Yeah. And then Jeremy, he's 5 months. I look at him and this kid smiles and he uplifts my spirit. They all do. But the little guy, I could have a shitty day and I just see him and he smiles, and it's just, he pulls on my beard. You can't forget, And my wife told me, learn to live in the now. Learn to do that. This whole time we've been on lockdown, COVID-19 epidemic, everything, I'll tell you, I cannot complain about the abundance of time I've spent with my kids.
It's awesome, man. And you know what? One thing that sticks out in my mind, it's so important during this time, is exactly what you just described, family. How important it is to have those people that we really appreciate and love, to have them in our AO, so to speak, and and be able to rely on them, and for them to be able to rely on us. Family is everything, man. Whether you have a blood family, or whether you're in an organization or a business or any kind of thing that we're doing as a group, it's about the family. What do you want? What do you want civilian world to know about veterans, especially combat veterans? What would you want them to know?
That there's more to the surface, to really don't treat them like they're your trophy. They're human beings. They feel things. sometimes more intense than others. They've been through stuff. Some of it, it's not, stuff to be proud of. But sometimes some civilians, they don't get that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
And they'll throw stuff like, that must be PTSD. Or like they throw, like sometimes they just throw all this stuff and it's like, listen, you have no idea. You have no idea. So watch what you say. The tongue has the power to give life and death.
Yeah.
Your words. I'm a sensitive guy. I own that. I learned to accept that I am a sensitive man. So certain words, they trigger me. And you know what? It took a lot of soul searching. And you know what? I'll tell you, man, I had to take a deep look in the mirror. That was my biggest battle, is the man in the mirror.
I definitely can agree to that, man. And I'm the same. I'm in the same tribe you're in. I'm a sensitive man. And
it's okay.
I know exactly what you mean when certain words can trigger you and emotional sets, there is nothing wrong with it. You've definitely shown that. Marvin, if there's somebody like a transitioning veteran out there who's like in a bad place, like an abyss, you as a person and a former Navy SEAL, what kind of advice would you give to them if they're in a real shitty place?
If they're in a bad place, listen, I've been there too. And I know what it's like to be in a dark place. But I reached out for help. I came to terms and I said, enough is enough, and I'm tired. I'm done. I want a better life. How do I get there? I had to make a phone call, and I know what it's like to pick up that 1,000-pound phone, but I did it. I was scared. But we're warriors at the end of the day. It doesn't matter what branch of service you joined. You're not the only one that's gone through what you're going through. But learn how to destroy your ego, your pride. And it's okay to be vulnerable and just expose yourself so that you can get the help that you need, because I had to do that. I had all this, I guess you can say, armor that was built around my heart. And I had a heart that was a rock, because it took me time to learn how to just let go of that stuff. I learned to forgive.
Yeah.
I learned to love. I moved on. I paid my dues and I moved on. And you know what? I am at my best. I did ask for help. And you know what? It was the best thing I did. Many that don't ask for it, they go down deeper into the rabbit hole and they don't come back. Don't be that person. Shit, reach out to me if you need to.
That's definitely great advice.
I've had many do it.
Yeah. That's
I've had many do it.
Definitely.
Because
yeah. I was one of those guys.
I'll tell you,
I picked up the 5,000-pound phone too. I was one of the guys that made that call too. So I totally get it. And for you to be able to tell the story and to continue, on a mission now to help others is admirable. And it's so it's badly needed still, even in today's world. Do you have
I recommend.
Yeah.
And I recommend learn how to take care of yourself. Self-care. And I'm not talking going a happy hour. I'm going to have a couple of drinks to help me feel better. I put the bottle down, right? I had my last hoorah. I had my last hoo-yah moment. And you know what? It could have been bad. But you know what, man? I know what's at stake. And I know that I'm worth it. I know my family deserves better. And everybody that I encounter with, they deserve the best version of me. So that's why I made that move. But at the very first thing, one of the toughest things that I had to do, I had to forgive myself. when you could do that as like one of the first steps, learn to forgive yourself and really take care of yourself, love yourself. You're in the right direction. You're definitely going to go there, but it doesn't happen easily, man. And that's the problem that with guys in our communities, they don't do it. Whether it's pride, it's shame. Answer me this: how come is it that we're so willing to go run into a burning fire and help out whoever needs help, but when it comes to us, no, I'm all right. I'm good. Don't worry about me. I'll be all right.
Yeah. It's a great question we need to ask for sure.
And the thing is, you know what? That was me for a really long time. That was me. And then out of nowhere, it's like, you know what? And I would get pissed off when my wife would tell me, how come you're trying to do everything? You know, you're not Superman. When are you going to get it? And that really got under my skin. It really did. But the truth of the matter is, no, I'm not Superman. I may be to my kids, and that's awesome and stuff. But you know what? You got to learn how to pick and choose your battles. You got to learn to be real and just and learn to say no. There are times when you cannot do anything. You can't help. And, you know, hey, it's okay. You're not a bad person for saying no. But I know that I always try to please everybody, and that's exhausting.
Yeah, I was in that same yes club for most of my life, and even now, you know, Marvin, I just had my birthday, and even at freaking 61 years, thank you, man, 61 years old, I don't feel like it, but I'm now learning after all these flipping years because of all the stuff that, you know, I had to go through with when I was a kid, but I'm finally learning how to say no. So, yeah, I hear you, Lima Charlie.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this: do you have
go for it?
Do you have a like a daily mantra that you live with every day when you get up, like a code that you live by?
I've had a couple. But you know what, man? I know that the one that I wake up to, and I've been saying this to myself, is just be the best that you can today for those around you and those that you'll encounter.
It's great advice. Okay, man, we're getting
close to it.
No, we're getting the nitty gritty, man. So,
yeah,
you know, looking at everything that we've talked about, you know, and the transition that you've had and the growth, you know, and things that we've talked about, and especially with what's going on in the country today, you know, if you were to give advice to this president based on your background and things that you've seen and been through, what would you tell this guy?
I heard a podcast not too long ago, and one of the guys said, lead with love. And it was suitable for, I guess, with everything that's going on. I liked how he said that. So I'm gonna go with that one. It's lead with love. Be a leader and do it with love. You know?
Couldn't be any more succinct than that, and makes so much sense nowadays with all the hatred going on, it seems like.
It's hard.
It's tough, man. So
yeah.
What is Gonzo, what does freedom mean to you?
You know, it's to, you know, live a life in which you're not oppressed, you're not judged. Well, let's be honest, we're always going to be judged no matter what. Good, bad, doesn't matter. Freedom is just to live, man. To just live. You know?
That's good, man. Simplicity is, you know, you give deep answers. You
know, I can't fluff it up, man. I'm not that type of guy. I'm not going to give you a fluffy answer. I'm just, you know, I keep it simple, but I you know, to me, it's just simply just live, you know. I'm looking at my kids right now running on the grass, you know, and I'm just like, That's freedom, to be able to see that, to be able to see them grow, to be able to enjoy them. That's my freedom.
Well, we know that you're coming up. You're getting ready to start school here at the end of the summer. Some things got knocked back, and we're congratulate you on your deep sea diving diploma. You know, you obviously completed SEAL training in that, so it says something, man. You know, anytime you can get in the water and do those kinds of things, it means a lot. You know, congratulate you on your family and congratulate you on the journey. You know, I know that we had met, you know, through an SF guy, you know, mutual friend. And Gonzo does something very, very heart-rendering in his spare time. You know, he made a wooden United States flag, you know, in subdued olive, green, and black stripes. American flag for the wife of one of the SF guys that we lost. That had a real hard time since his transition after 7 deployments, and he had checked himself into a center. But Gonzo made this flag and sent it, and we're still waiting to make the presentation. Some things with COVID's gotten away, but when Gonzo does these flags, he doesn't do them because he makes any money. He doesn't do them because he asks for any money. He does them because he speaks. He speaks through his fingers and his hands to make these flags, and every single one of them is an expression of his heart and soul. And so, how can people get in touch and find out more about you, Gonzo? And if somebody's looking for help, what's the number they can call you? If you could share that.
Absolutely. My number is 516-642-4342. 516-642-4342. If I don't answer at that moment, hey, I'll get back to you, you know, and I'll do it as quick as I can. All right. I'm also on Instagram, OP5 Oscar Papa 5 _ Tactical. Just send me a message, you know. I'll respond. Absolutely. And the thing is, just remember, you're not alone, you know. I like that phrase where it's been there, done that.
Absolutely, man.
I've been there, done that, you know. And the thing is, you know, I've gone through the stuff already where I know exactly what you're going through. And you're not alone. It doesn't matter. You know, I had to learn how to let go of those burdens a long time ago. And you know what? They were becoming cancer to me. And that's no way to live. It really isn't.
No, it isn't. Thank you for sharing all your wisdom today, Gonzo. You know, we've been talking with former Navy U.S. SEAL Marvin Gonzales. He's up in Long Island area. His story has been freaking incredible with a lot of good wisdom, and just want to wish you safety, and want to wish your family well and Godspeed during this time for America. And I can just say that I'm humbled to be your friend here. We've only talked on the phone and texted, but I just appreciate you, Gonzo, sharing your story about your family and your time in a service, serving our great country. And it means a lot. And for you, those who are listening to us, to Gonzo and me talking squat, we appreciate you listening as well. And we wished everybody out there safety. And Gonzo, you got the last word, brother.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for the opportunity. Believe it or not, this is my first time doing this. And,
no, man, you freaking fooled me.
Yeah, no, I really did. I just, I prayed about it before, man, because I just wanted it to come from the heart. You know, that's me, you know. There's more to me, you know, but I know due to time. But I really hope that those of you who are listening, you got something that will lighten up your day if you're in a dark spot. You know, iron sharpens iron. I kept saying that to one of my buddies where that I met, that he's a brother to me, you know, but I met him when I went to rehab. And, you know, there's some, oh man, there's so much more to my story that, you know, due to time, but, you know, just know that.
We'll hit it up again, man. Don't worry.
We'll hit it up again. But for those of you that are listening, God bless you. We'll get through this time, and, you know, just learn how to just take it easy, you know, take it easy, you know, just like, don't lose your shit today, lose it tomorrow, you know, just chill today.
No, that's good, man. Thanks, Gonzo.
Yeah.
God bless
Brother,
America, man. And,
God bless, man. Thank you. And I'll talk to you soon. You know how to reach me.
Roger that.
You gotta light 'em up before they burn it down.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Straight Outta Combat Radio, audio medicine from Green Zone Hero. If you liked what you heard, then tell others about us. Like us and download us. And please remember, freedom is not free, and combat veterans are vital assets. They're not broken.
Save us all before they burn it down.